everything. Play music in between. Tune in and enjoy Chad's underground scene. Talking music, you know what I mean. Tune in and enjoy Chad's underground scene.
Welcome to part 2 of Chad's Underground Scene with Clive Farrington. We're going to try to pick up where we left off. So we left off playing a little bit of Roxy music, and we were talking about When in Rome.
Yeah, I mean, When in Rome were a big, of course, influenced by Roxy Music, David Bowie and all the electronic bands and stuff. Especially Bowie and Roxy Music and Brian Ferry and Brian Eno from Roxy Music.
Love Eno.
All great play, the fantastic musicians. Every musician in Bowie's band, all Bowie's bands, Roxy Music. You got Brian in Roxy Music specifically. You got, of course, Brian Ferry on vocals. Brian Eno, who at the time, at the beginning of it all, played he slowed tapes down and everything else to get these weird sounds.
And just amazing, right? Brian Eno was involved with so much music. It's
absolutely
crazy.
And the technical side of music as well. I remember he did this article about speakers once, and he said if you take the positive connections from the left and right speakers and put them both in a center speaker, and then fed another positive, it was a weird setup, and I remember doing it. I remember copying it exactly, and it was the first surround sound. It gave you that kind of a swirling surround sound, because Eno was really into that. It was more sounds than playing.
Right.
I don't know whether, I'm sure he can play. He's a great player of instruments. He might not have been back then, but his thing was noises and
amazing.
And
you were talking earlier about recording and how it's come a long way, right? It started out. My first recording I did was on a cassette tape, and then it was a cassette tape 4-track.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And then with Easter, we went to the studio, and they're real hip, and they knew what was going on, and it's tape, it's still tape, right? But it's 2-inch tape, right?
Yeah.
And they get real fancy, and they said, hey, let's do a reverse cymbal on this record, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple spots, and our drummer is going, I'd love that. And and then the drummer gave an example of some other records that he heard it on, right?
Wow.
And they took the tape with a razor blade, they cut the tape, took it apart, and turned it around backwards, and glued it back together. And then when it went through the thing, it went whoosh, and it was a backward cymbal.
Well, let me just show you. Let me just show you because just a great example of that would be this. Yesterday.
Now you push a button on Pro Tools and.
Exactly. What's going on here? Let me mute that microphone. So now you can just hit reverse, of course, and it just does it automatically. So I'm just going to show you an example. We were doing this yesterday on a track called Human Nature, which is a new track. I'm going to play you. These are not mastered yet.
Yeah.
But.
So you use that?
Yes.
Awesome.
I used a reverse cymbal.
How funny is that? You just mentioned that and you just used it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to think.
But in the studio, it took us probably half an hour to get all that sorted out, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Between cutting the tape,
yesterday was like
and then getting it back in the exact right place where it doesn't sound like it's off time.
Exactly.
Right?
Just a second. I'll get it. There it is. Oh, there it is. There. This one here. Is that it there? Let me just have a look. I'll get it.
With no sound.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Do you hear that?
Amazing what you can do now.
Just check this out. So this was in seconds. So we got this thing where I actually say with no sound, and there's a thing, a gap.
Just lift your feet up off the ground. Sense emotion. With no sound. No sound.
There it is.
That's it. Yeah. That's what it sounded
And that was
like.
just you just go reverse, done.
and it goes shh.
Yeah.
Just like they did on that. It was amazing, and the work it used to take going with that tape and
Absolutely.
cutting it, gluing it, and,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then he kept moving it till it was in the right spot. Right?
But for me, it's got better because you know, I mean, I've done all my. I guess you've done. I did all the working men's clubs, and we used to rehearse at this farm. So you had to finish school, go home and get changed, have your tea, have your dinner, go to rehearse, and you'd be rehearsing until about 11 o'clock till you got kicked out by the farmer's wife.
Exactly.
And these days you can rehearse remotely, and we're actually about to do a song with a guy called Felix. He's in a band called Felix and the Foreshadow. We're doing it. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but we're doing a cover number with David Sterry and a couple of other guys singing the vocals and stuff. So and we can do all of that remotely. So we just sending stuff back and the project that I'm doing now, I just load all the latest versions into all these. The shared folders and stuff like that, so we're all up to date with everything. It's I think it's really cool. It suits me completely because I'm a tech guy, you know, and I love all that. I still love.
Yeah, I've noticed that a little bit.
Well, but for me, it's.
So you tell Andrew just leave it to the professionals.
Oh, absolutely. You stay at home.
Leave it to the professionals because I can spend all day on this.
Yeah, which is really cool. You know, I mean, if he's not into it, you know, I mean, there's people that are massively into it and people who get really bored with it. My wife gets.
Well, then he has his own thing, right? It's everyone has their contribution.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So it's for me it's this because of all this new technology, and something changes. I downloaded 2 plugins yesterday for Logic with the program that I use. Just because they were brand new and it did stuff, you know, it did stuff to your bass. It made your bass sound better, or made your vocals sound better, you know. So I'm always up to date with that stuff.
Let's talk a little more when in Rome and recording and underground scene. Where was your first gig with when in Rome?
Ooh, when in Rome. You know what? When in Rome never actually gigged when we got when the record came out. We were not gigging in the UK. We did little showcases here and there. We gigged more with Bow Leisure, the band before When in Rome. But I decided that the live scene really wasn't where it was at. For me to get a record deal, I needed to record something. So
and get something good enough to
I didn't really want to do that, although I did it. You know, I did all that apprenticeship. We played all the working men's clubs and everything else. So we got used to being on stage and everything else. Even though when when in Rome started, I was so shy. I just didn't want to talk. And you know, on stage I left all the talking to Andrew.
Yeah, let Andrew do that, and then the songs. And that's back to what I was saying. Everyone has their contribution in a band, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a great dynamic, right? It's
absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure that's why you're back together playing.
Oh yeah, and now we're great together. You know, like a proper partnership now, because we know we have that sense where we know where each of us are on stage, and if we do get anywhere close, we have to do a bit of sparring, and we can move around, around really without even thinking about it. So we of course where were we up to? What question did you ask last? It was.
Your first gig.
The first gig.
Live gig.
So live gig for When in Rome was actually on a tour. We came out on tour just after the song had been released.
Right. Okay.
We came out on a little club tour. We weren't being paid. It wasn't paid gigs or anything like that. We were actually working for the record company and to try and recoup some of the money that they spent on them. So I think we'd spent a lot of money by that time because we did the vocals. We did all the vocals at different places. We did all the music at different places.
Right, and were a lot of those where you just played one song or 2 songs?
Yes, it was The Promise.
Yeah, because we did quite a few of those with Easter where we would do a teen dance club.
Yeah,
and they're playing records the whole time.
Yeah.
And then we would come and play 1 or 2 songs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was it.
And it was in the day and age where record companies would not allow you to do live shows. You had to do it to the track because it had to sound exactly like the record that people were buying. You know.
Yeah, some of them allowed us to do it live, and others they wanted
absolutely. So. We got into a bit of a Milli Vanilli thing, and on the second tour when we came again, people got to think, the miming, you know, it was all that sort of stuff. But by that time, the record was already a big hit, so the record company said, just go out and do the club dates, do it to the backing track, blah blah blah. And of course, now pretty much all of it's live. Of course, we use tour support. They call it tour support, where we use backing tracks and stuff like that. But all the vocals are live, apart from somebody maybe in the choruses and stuff like that. But it was a great learning curve, that.
Right, and then you brought in live guitars and live drums. You brought in a lot of different things.
Yeah. I mean, I always like to work with that. I mean, for instance, I worked with George Dume on a track with Pancho, who's my MD, or When in Rome's musical director, if you like. I did a tune with him, and then after that we did 2 gigs at Danny's clubs at the Bellflower. In fact, we did 3 of his clubs, all the 3 different clubs. And then COVID came in. We couldn't do the 4th one, of course.
Yeah, I've played there several times. Yeah, it's a good place.
And we had George on drums, and he's such a great drummer. George Dume, his name is. I think he's a Belgian guy, or what? He's from another country anyway. So he's friends with the drummer for Depeche Mode, and he plays pretty much like him. So it was really solid, the sound. And I love live stuff now. And I didn't really feel happy jumping on stage and singing to the backing track, but now it's kind of come full circle, where I'm back to being in a live band again,
So when was the point where Danny Dean came into your band? Because that's a big connection with us.
Well,
we hung out a little bit in the 80s, and we were playing a lot of the same same scene, because it was 80s music. Even though we were more rock, we still were we were still put together with a lot of the 80s bands. And then when you guys came back together, you ended up with Danny and your band, and then after we talk about him a little bit, I'll reveal a dirty little secret that I have that I told you before. I'm not sure if you remember.
So we came to talk. There's a lot of controversy with When in Rome, because we lost the name, but our ex-keyboard player trademarked the name when the film came out in 2004, or just after the film had come out, the Napoleon Dynamite, in which The Promise was used. So we had, because of Napoleon Dynamite, we had renewed success. So I kind of looked over, or somebody had sent me a video of our ex-keyboard player's band playing all the When in Rome stuff, with a new singer and everything else. And I was just wondering, wait a minute, we're 5,000 miles away. Why aren't we being asked to come to America to promote the fact that we've just had our song in a big movie?
Right, yeah.
But we were never asked. And so we were at the point where we went on this tour, the whirlwind tour of America, and on the second tour we went for lunch with the head of the dance department at Virgin Records in America, and Johnny H. Jazz was with us as well. They were kind of big at the same time as us. They had a big tune at that time, and we were there having lunch with them. Great guys. And the lady stood up from the record label, and she says, I just want to propose a toast. And I thought, Johnny H. Jazz are going to get something. I thought, here we go, Johnny H. Jazz are going to get something. So she stood up, I just want to propose a toast. When in Rome have just gone to #1 on the dance chart with The Promise, and it was such a brilliant thing to
so exciting, right?
Absolutely.
And then when you hear your song on the radio, like here it was MTV, right? And VH1, I would watch those videos and that's me on there. Oh my god,
brilliant. But Danny Dean, so the film comes out. Napoleon Dynamite came out in 2004. I knew it was going to be successful because Daryl Hannah. I was watching MTV Film Awards back in the UK. At 1 o'clock in the morning, and she comes running on stage. She said, "Forgive me, I'm losing my voice. I've been shouting for Napoleon Dynamite." So I thought, "Fucking hell, our song's in that movie," and so of course it won MTV Film of the Year, and won the Sundance Film Festival and everything else. And so then I started to inquire what's going on. So I got in touch with Rob Juarez, who was the promoter for our ex-keyboard players band. So just to let him know that we were still around. So he sent me a message. I was told that you weren't doing it anymore. You'd retired and you didn't want to do it. I said, no. Who would turn down the fact that your record that you wrote and recorded and produced
is back on the radio.
Back on the radio. Who would not want to leave a 9-to-5 job and come back to America to promote the thing again?
Right. Oh yeah.
So unfortunately, that job was being done by another band, if you like, and so I got in touch with Rob, and Rob got back in touch with me. And he said, "Do you want to do some stuff?" Well, first of all, I saw some merchandise up on some site somewhere, and it was all When in Rome merchandise. So I said, "Please take that down, or you'll get sued." Blah blah blah. So they took all of that stuff down. They took all the merchandise down. And then Rob got in touch with me and he said, "If you want to do something, we'll do something." So 2011 comes around, and I think he'd just been working with Danny in Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark.
Right. Yes, yeah, he was with OMD at that time.
Yeah. And so he says, "Well, I've got a guitarist for us, I've got a drummer, I've got a keyboard player, Robin Kennedy, you know Robin?"
Right, yeah.
And come and rehearse. And so we got to this bit, we went to rehearse. I know you've rehearsed there, it's in Set Springs. You'll know the place, it's on, what road's it on? Anyway, we got into this rehearsal studio, and we started rehearsing at Danny's. It's the first time I'd met Danny.
Right, oh, okay, yeah.
So Danny was playing guitar with us. And but the weird thing is, he was kind of...
And that was at Maltrax, right? In his house, right, in the garage.
We did some there.
Yeah.
That was later on. But the original place we went was in some... Colorado Springs, what's the place?
Santa Fe Springs.
Santa Fe Springs. Yeah, there was a rehearsal studio over there. And that was the first time I'd met Danny, and now Rob insisted that Danny came along, because When in Rome are not really a guitar band. There were some guitar on the album tracks, but not on The Promise. The Promise was the most electronic track.
Yes.
Pretty much that was the song that everybody wanted us to play, and I thought it was a little bit weird at the time he wasn't thrust on us. Rob insisted that Danny came along because he obviously loves his playing and everything else, and we got on like House on Fire. And Danny reminds me of John McGeoch from Public Image Limited, because I'd worked with him, and his attitude. And although John's from Scotland in the UK, Danny's from I think originally from Texas, isn't he?
And then he came out here, and he was.
But he's got this real attitude.
He was living in Lawndale for years, and then he ended up in Lakewood. Yeah.
He's got this real kind of John McGeoch.
And now he's in Nashville. So.
Yeah, absolutely. He's home of music now. Home of country music, I should say, or rockabilly. But I guess he's where his heart is, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So he then started working with us. We did a few gigs. We did Mandalay Bay in Vegas. We did all the big ones. We had a few gigs cancelled because of the stuff that was going on with the band and what have you. But working with Danny has been fantastic, and I had the honour of staying at his place during that. In fact, it was just after that. It was after I started doing my solo stuff, and Danny was playing on my solo shows and stuff. So I've kind of kept in touch with him, and he played with me the other week. We played at a gig at a brewery, Burkus Brewery, and it was a circus place. And
you played at Texas Lucy's, I think, with him.
Texas Lucy's, yeah. So it's been a good ride with Danny. It's been fantastic. And then of course we saw. I think you were with him, weren't you, at that last gig in Texas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the big place.
Yeah, we played together.
And Robert asked you to come on that show.
And Easter opened the show. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so the reveal is all of this that goes on, right? Is that I played guitar with the American version of When in Rome.
Did you? Fantastic. What, at the beginning of it all?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they found one of their friends that took over, but I played with them.
So you got to meet them all?
All those guys,
Yeah.
And they were good.
That was with...
That singer was really good.
That was Jaden Frost, wasn't it?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jaden. Because I'm really friends with Jaden now.
Yeah, and the singer was really good. I was like, wow, this is...
He was good.
He's doing a great job.
I think that was probably the best version of that.
So they had the same inkling, maybe we should get some guitar in here.
Yes, absolutely.
and then when Danny told me he's playing with you guys, I was like...
You're in opposite corners.
That's interesting.
Wow. And in the red corner. Wow. And so $100,000 later.
Yeah.
Oh mate. Yeah, it's cost me a fortune to come out of what? Because of course we were still calling ourselves When in Rome, because we were the original When in Rome. But unfortunately we were sued and everything else, and it cost me a lot of money. But thankfully that's all over, and I respect everybody. I don't have any regrets about anything. I don't dislike anybody because of it all. I'm happy with what I'm doing right now. I'm happy with myself. I'm happy with my own music.
Well, and you can tell that. You can tell that for several years now. I've been watching you, and you're shining, right? You're real comfortable with everything.
Yeah. I think I'm
because it's interesting when you go to shows where there's several bands, you see uncomfortable musicians there.
Oh yeah.
There's issues, right? You're going, that guy must have an issue with somebody else in the band,
absolutely,
or somebody in another band. And musicians sometimes are like oil and water.
I call it the Fleetwood Mac effect.
Yeah, they can't control themselves sometimes with with their likes and tastes, and sometimes they're like,
yeah, exactly. Well, it happened with Bow Leisure. That's how Bow Leisure broke up, because we all had our different styles and the way of doing things, and it all exploded one night where we all got sick of it and we all started pretty much fighting on stage. And I've seen that a few times with bands, but that's that again. That adds to the whole thing about the music. If music business wasn't part of the music business, music would be great.
Oh yeah, no, I've played actually several shows that we were playing where there's other bands.
Yeah.
The other band got in a fight on stage.
Yeah.
Fist fight where they're knocking each other.
Oh yeah.
And one was like, did you see that movie Step Brother?
Yeah, I think I did.
It was like that. They're punching each other, then the guy goes down on the floor and he's taking the cymbal and whacking the guy with the cymbal. And we were just sitting there going,
wow.
And when it was all over, we just looked at each other and go, they're not going to remember a song we played. Well, everyone here is just going to remember that.
Absolutely, that part. But it's pretty much like, in the UK, weirdly enough, football, of course, is the biggest sport, and football and music go pretty much hand in hand, because the footballers hang around with musicians and entertainers, if you like. And remember Frank Cantona, what's his name? You're going to have to edit this. Eric Cantona played for Manchester United. He came from he's French.
Yeah.
And somebody was shouting at him in the crowd, or saying something bad about his mum. And it's the worst thing you can do.
Oh no, you did never.
Yeah.
Don't touch that.
Don't touch that. So somebody was shouting about saying something bad about his mum, and he jumps into the crowd and gives somebody a kung fu kick, and he got banned from playing for 6 weeks. But in music, you can carry on. If you for instance, Jean-Jacques Brunel from the Stranglers, somebody was shouting something about his mum it was either his mum or something very personal. Somebody was shouting to him.
Oh yeah.
And gets his bass guitar.
Oh yeah, right out in the audience, right?
It's like, I don't care, you could kill somebody.
And especially when you're young, right? Because I went out in the audience a few times with my bass guitar.
Yeah.
Because it got crazy at a punk show, right?
Yeah. And I think everything's hunky-dory.
Oh yeah, and it was the next thing I'm off the stage hitting people.
Keeping people
trying to survive,
Oh, mate.
And when you're 20, boy, you could do that stuff at a drop of a hat. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
What? Hey! The best one, we're playing this one show, and it was at a place called Fender's Ballroom, which was the best place to have punk rock shows, right? Yeah. It was a big, huge stage.
Yeah.
And it was high, so it was up here, right? In the audience, the people in the front, you can only see like from their chest up, right?
Yeah.
And they're digging it, they're into it, and you'd have a slam pit going on there.
Yeah.
And this guy, he kept spitting on us, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, stop that, dude. That's gross. And he kept it up, right? And I go, this is your last warning. And he did it again, and I just kicked the guy in the face, right?
Yeah.
And he goes down, and he comes back up, and his face is bleeding, and he looks me straight in the eye, and he goes, "That was awesome."
Fantastic. Oh, fantastic.
And I just looked and I go, that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Wow, that's brilliant.
But he got the best of me, and I just lost my temper, right? And I go,
that was awesome. I saw Susie and the Banshees at Bellevue in Manchester one time, and she walked off stage because everybody was spitting at her.
Oh,
she says, if you stop spitting, I'll come back on stage. So she went off and got showered, came back on, and everybody had stopped. Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's funny how that was a thing, though. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, weird. And the more they appreciated you.
Oh, yeah. It was just part of that scene, right? But sometimes it got annoying, and that day it did.
Absolutely.
For me, it did. I was just like, that's it, enough.
Yeah, but it's weird how I never thought, I've been to see a few bands where I've seen people spitting out, but I never ever thought, what a great idea.
Oh, right, yeah. Let me show my appreciation.
Yeah. You're fantastic. Brilliant.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and nowadays, of course, you could never get away with that, could you? You get arrested now for that, for spitting at someone. Yeah.
So what are your plans now with When in Rome? You're into a new phase right now.
Of course, we can now collaborate. Rather than having to wait 2 weeks for a cassette tape to be sent down over to London.
Right. We could just send it right in the email. Yeah,
absolutely. So we have a shared Dropbox with Andrew. We're working with Neil X at the moment from CZ Sputnik, the guitarist.
Oh,
Neil,
he's great. Yeah.
He works with Mark Almond as well.
Right.
So we've written a track called "Don't Stare at the Sun," which is it's pretty much. Although we've got a track called Two Fixers as well, but "Don't Stare at the Sun" features Neil X from CZ Sputnik, and it sounds fantastic. I love it.
And then you're going to be touring as well.
2022 now, I think, as When in Rome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I've already done a few shows as with my own stuff. Of course, I put When in Rome stuff in there. It's been. I've been very lucky.
So until next year, you'll be doing Clive Farrington shows and.
And more of the Farrington and Mann shows as well.
Yeah.
Because,
cool. Yeah.
And Andrew's coming over in January. We're going to rehearse. We're going to get some shows at the end of January, and then later on in the year we've got a secret show in May, and then later on the most important thing, I mean, God bless Rob, and we really loved working with Rob Juarez. We just needed to do a longer set, we needed to show what we could do.
Right, and you want to stay current, right?
Yeah. And when people say you're a one-hit wonder, I say, I'm so glad that I was a one-hit wonder.
Oh no, exactly.
Because you don't get pulled around as much. If you've had loads of hit records, you kind of wanted everywhere around the world. If you've had a worldwide hit, we were lucky that we had the one hit in America. America, the Philippines.
Yeah.
And our kind of work schedule is far less than Duran Duran or Depeche Mode, and I would and too many people. But I've seen too many people burn out in this business.
Yes, and you could do it. You could do it easily.
Easily. And you've seen people that are absolutely absolutely famous for doing about 20,000 different songs, and they just go and having a life of their own, So it's I'm grateful for the one hit, to tell you the honest truth.
Right,
and it pays the rent.
And and it keeps you afloat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To do what you want.
Yeah,
you're writing a lot of new music. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not scared of work either, because if this all dried up tomorrow, I could. I used to work for a company called PSAV that are based in America, but I work for them in Manchester. They actually provided the audio-visual setups for Radisson SAS Hotel at Manchester Airport. So I was in charge of all of that. So I could, if all else failed, go back to that, or fixing caterpillars. Yeah, in 6 foot of snow.
But you'd probably rather do music. I think to talk about all his current stuff, because what's important with the underground, right, is current stuff and brand new stuff. We want to hear new music. We don't want to always reminisce. We want to hear new music, and I know you're always loaded with new music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time I hang out with you, you tell me, I got this new thing, and I'm the same. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think I'd rather write music than listen to music. It's weird, but I took a leaf out of a guy called Quentin Crisp. Quentin Crisp is a very famous, I would call him a philosopher. There's a film made about him called The Naked Civil Servant. He was a very famous celebrity, if you like. He never did a day's work in his life. He wrote a book and everything else.
He's an underground celebrity.
Absolutely. And Sting wrote a song about him called Englishman in New York. That's about Quentin Crisp. Now he's doing kind of a seminar at Yale University, and there's a question and answer session at the end, and he's written this brilliant book about life, all about life and how to deal with things. He was a gay guy, so he spoke about when he was young, growing up as a gay guy, and having to fight for himself.
Oh, right, and fight for it.
And I love that kind of thing. You know, I love anybody that's got the goal and the strength to be able to live all through that stuff.
Right, through the diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. So he wrote a book, and so he was doing a seminar at this college, and there was a question and answer session at the end, and one of the guys says, "Now, how do I start to write a book? How do I write a book? What best advice can you give me to write a book?" He says, "Never read."
Right, yeah.
He says, if you're going to write a book, never read, because you'll end up writing like
what you read,
what you've read. And that, for me, that's the same with music. I don't listen to music to get into, although I do. Subconsciously I get.
Oh no!
I get.
It comes out. Yeah, once in a while I write a song, and then I go, "God, that sounds familiar," and then
absolutely.
And then somebody will point it out, or I'll listen to something and I'm going,
"Yeah,
oh, that's where I got it." Right?
Absolutely. So I prefer to listen to brand new music, you know, and I've DJ'd as well. I used to do a radio show called on Reflex Radio, and I did a lot of research finding out these new bands, and there's a load of new bands coming out of Manchester that you've never heard of, but sound fantastic. There's one band that's actually produced by Johnny Marr, and it's Johnny Marr's son, and it sounds really good. It's really good stuff. So I prefer to actually find that the newer stuff rather than listening. I don't specifically put on an old record to think, oh, I'm gonna do something like this. I've been inspired to write the music from listening to what I listened to naturally when I left school, and I bought this stuff. I remember we could play a record in assembly at school. They got a little bit diverse by school, where they said, you know, you can bring your own record in and play it.
We had a jukebox in middle school. We had a jukebox in the cafeteria.
Fantastic.
And that's where I got introduced to David Bowie, right? I was in middle school, and I was listening to David Bowie, right? I was like,
brilliant.
Who's that? And my buddy's like, that's David Bowie. And I like that.
Wow.
And then I get really lucky, and my uncle brought me to go see David Bowie.
Wow.
And I was a teenager, right? This is amazing.
Proper eye opener, isn't it? When you see a really good artist doing his stuff, and he's very confident. Well,
and that was the point where I'm like, I think I want to do this, right?
Exactly. But I at the time I was in the school band, and they of course they allowed us to bring these records in without even looking at it. They didn't play them first to see if there was any bad words in them. And I played editions of You one morning off the For Your Pleasure album, Roxy Music. And I remember the art teacher who everybody fancied the art teacher at school, the guy. And she came up to me after. She said, "Who was that you played in assembly?" And of course, I took pleasure in telling her
to tell everybody
who it was all about, and blah blah blah. And it was it was a good thing. It was great that my school allowed us to kind of experiment or to show them what we were doing, what we were up to.
Right, and I was lucky, so I had my uncle, and then my sister was into more hard rock. And then she brought me to go see Queen. Right, so my older sister. So I was just learning. Right?
Absolutely.
And so I had two great bands to start with. Right, I was like, wow, these are great bands, and then and on stage they were great, right?
Absolutely.
It's exciting because they're moving around the stage.
Oh man, talking of moving around the stage, the best video, best music video for me is Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads.
Oh yeah.
And it's and specifically because it starts off with just him, and he comes on with a little boom box, puts it on the stage, and it's Second Killer,
slowly builds.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
And he's got a new show on, I think it was on Netflix, I saw it.
Oh yes,
And
with the
it's a
grey
stage
suit. Where
show.
he's got the grey suits on. They've all got grey suits on.
No. He's got a brand new show he
is it
just
in
did.
Oh wow.
And it's David Byrne, right? It's not Talking Heads. It's David Byrne.
Right. Yeah.
And he's doing a lot of his songs since Talking Heads, but there's about 3 or 4 Talking Heads songs in it.
Wow. But
and it's kind of, it's music and spoken word and theatrics.
Wow. Fantastic.
So he has dancers and he has all these other people on stage with him.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because he's singing and he's dancing and doing all these moves.
Yeah.
You have to be in shape. So
absolutely.
I don't know what he's doing, yoga or jogging or whatever he's doing.
Something, hasn't he? He's got to be doing something.
Because he's all over that stage,
you know what?
singing and he's...
I was never really a massive Talking Heads music fan.
Yeah.
But when you watch Stop Making Sense, it all makes sense.
The creativity in
which
it
is so
amazing.
fucking... I mean, the actual thought behind that... Because I think that he thought himself that he wasn't making any sense musically. I thought, is this music making sense to the public? And so he brings out a video, Stop Making Sense, which makes all the sense in the world.
And how I got into them, the Talking Heads, I can't remember the movie, but there was a movie out here, and Life During Wartime was on the soundtrack.
Wow.
And I go, I love that song. I need to find out what it is. So I went to see the movie again, just so I could see the ending credits to find out who did the song.
Exactly. Yeah, I love all that.
And then after that, I bought every Talking Heads record that there was.
Absolutely. And all these new shows that are out now that are 80s influenced, they've got a kind of an 80s soundtrack, but with brand new bands. So you get the Shazam out to find out who they are, and then it's always some like Robin Gertmuller or whatever that's doing this fantastic music that sounds just like it could be recorded or released back in the 80s.
All right, so we got a little bit sidetracked. So back to Farrington.
Farrington, man, and Danny. I mean, Danny's been a friend of mine since he first joined the band. He played with us in 2011 all the way through up to 2015, somewhere like that. He's done some big shows with us. He did the big one in Mexico with us. Yeah. But he's still a friend, and we're still in touch. And he played a gig with me the other week. So When in Rome came around. We're going back to the When in Rome thing now. So we've done all this demoing in the studio and everything else, and Mike and I went down to London to do more demos. And we were going past this delicatessen, which we'd never seen in Manchester. London, like LA and New York, get things before the provincial cities in Texas and stuff like that. You know, the big cities got the stuff first. Like all the Italian restaurants and the Chinese restaurants started in the big cities. So in London, it's exactly the same. They got stuff before we did, and we saw this delicatessen, and it looked fat. I'd never seen anything like it. There was cakes, all sorts of cakes in the window, and pies and sandwiches, and they looked beautiful. And I said, I just fancy something to eat from there. And he said, Mike was with you. I was driving, Mike was here. He says, what do you want? I said, just get us one of those there. That's all right. He says, I'm having one of them. I said, When in Rome. So he goes in the shop, and then comes back with the stuff. I says, how about that for the name for the band? He went, When in Rome. And it was one of my dad's big sayings as well. Everywhere we went, because we used to travel a lot as a family. My dad would take us to all these obscure, and he used to piss people off at school because if ever there was a geography lesson and there was where they missed the letters out in a place, and they put it up on the chalkboard, they put a place name and leave some letters out. I knew them all because I'd been to them all. And all like I'd get you swat, you fucking, I'd get some really bad vibes from the other students, So because I'd travel with my dad, and
so I have a question. You said your father's 90 now.
Yeah.
So
93 now.
If you were anything like most of us boys, you probably weren't listening to his advice when you were young man.
He was a punk before I was, my dad.
Yeah. No, but you probably weren't listening to his advice.
No.
Right?
No.
So now that he's 90, are you back to listening to his advice?
He listens to mine now, I think. We both have a mutual understanding of where we're what's really great about my mum and dad is that they've always been into what I was doing.
Yeah.
They've never ever said to me, "Isn't it time you got a proper job?"
Right. Yeah.
They've never ever said that.
My parents were the same.
Yeah, they've never said.
Yeah.
They've always been behind the stuff that I've been doing, and today, of course, they're really proud. To be them
because you made a good go of it, right?
And I count my lucky. I'm so lucky to have my mum and dad still at my age, because most guys my age have lost their parents, but I still have mine, and my mum's not in good shape at the moment, but she comes home tomorrow. She was in hospital, but she's coming home tomorrow. But they've always been behind the stuff, and every time I speak to them, they say, "Oh, your granddad would be so proud," because it was my granddad that started me on this.
That started you on this. Oh, nice.
And of course, he died while I was still at school, before I'd even done anything musically. And but my mum and dad did get to see it, and they have a platinum record.
So that's great. You can make them proud, and I'm sure he's looking down on you. And he's proud.
And I still feel him. I feel I still.
Some of the creation's probably coming from him, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think about him. But
I just did a song on my new album. I did an acoustic album.
Yeah.
And the song came about from my daughter. She did a movie about him.
Yeah.
She produced, directed, did this whole movie about him, and she said, "Dad, can you do the song that Grandpa used to sing all the time, that Bubbles song?" So I immediately go, "Yeah, I could do that song. I'm pretty sure that's the Don Ho song." He loved that song. So I went in the studio with my buddies and recorded it. And I gave it to her, and she said, "That's not the song." I go, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "He didn't sing it anything like that. I want the Bubbles song that he sang." And then I thought about it, and I'm going, "Oh my goodness, she's right. He didn't sing it anything like the original version of this song." So then I sat in my studio and I wrote Bubbles, the song that was the version my father that he sang.
Fantastic.
And I recorded it and put it on my record.
Oh, brilliant.
And I gave her a copy, and it's in her movie.
Oh, it's lovely that you can say that you can do that, isn't it? But that was the same for me with the... I remember getting a phone call from my daughter. She said, Dad, you're famous. Your song's just been in Sex Education. Yeah. And Sex Education was the biggest movie for you. The young people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I've since watched it, of course, and it's a really good show. And in the second series, they use The Promise right at the end of it, and it's so she was with all her mates. So she for her, it's like, I told you my dad was famous. He's now in something that we all watch.
So you've just recorded some songs. So tell us about the recording that you have.
Yep, it started. I met this guy called Colin Wood, and I did a song with this band. I met these I can forget where I met them. It must have been at a gig somewhere, and I produced and wrote a song with them called "I'm Still Here." Was that? Did you think that was your tape going on?
No, that was the computer.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. I'd worked with them, and only about 3 or 4 months ago, Colin contacted me again, and he's come round here a few times for singing. He wanted some singing tips, not lessons. I don't give lessons. I can give tips and stuff like that. I'm not professional, but so he sent us this backing track. He says, I want to write a track for you, something like this. I says, what's wrong with this? What it sent me was a really brilliant, and it inspired some lyrics, and the track's called "To Fix Us." So Andrew and it was pretty much just before I was going back to Manchester to visit my mum and dad, and I got together with Andrew, and we recorded the vocals at my house. I have a house in Stockport as well, so we recorded the vocals there. I brought them back here, and Al Judd mixed the final version of it. Richard Blade played it the other week on his radio show.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're going to play this, I can send you these tracks so that you can play it in the show.
Right, okay.
So I'll send you these afterwards, yeah? So that track's called "To Fix Us." Then I played a gig at Gallagher's in.
Oh, Gallagher's! I just played there.
Have you just played there?
Last week, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Scott Tucker.
Yeah.
And I met this guy called Ryan Roth, who was a friend of Colin's, who'd sent us that track. And he says, I've got some stuff that you might like. So he sent us 4 things. He says, choose any one of them or all 4 of them if you want. So I did choose all 4 of them, but there was one that was just slightly unsure about. We're called 405 Dreams. That one has turned out to be the best tune of all of them. Now these are not mastered yet, so you won't be able to have a copy, and I can't play them now during the show.
Right, yeah.
But as soon as they're mastered, I'll send them to you, and then you can put them as part of this show, hopefully. But it's been a great experience, I think, and I think that's pretty much the way that Andrew and I are going to go forward now, is collaborating. Because I can't. It's not that I can't work on my own. I do enjoy working on my own.
But collaborations are so good.
It's collaborations.
Yeah.
It's a pity that I haven't got time. Pancho's so busy now with his film.
Yeah, my new album, I have like 5 other people that came in to do parts on it.
Yeah, I
a
love
violin
it.
player,
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
ukulele.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I just love somebody that can actually play, especially a keyboard player or a great guitar player. You know, that can just.
That's what I have. Guitar.
Together. Yeah. I remember working with John McGeoch, and I said, try this. And it's come from a Pink Floyd tune called "Wish You Were Here," and it's down.
That's
that dead simple guitar part. Now that's Gilmour playing that guitar part.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the greatest guitarists of all time. But when you listen to his stuff, it's simple.
So simple. It's
always.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
right?
It's the sound.
Yes.
Yeah. The Edge from U2.
Yeah.
All of its sound. That ding, 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 all that stuff is all delays and everything else. So I said to Miguel, when you listen to "Wish You Were Here," it's got this really lovely, simple Dave Gilmour guitar part in it. Now I want to do a tune like, and I said, try this. And I had this melody in my head that was inspired by that. It was down down da down da down da down, and he played it and he went, and he just realised that it's not as hard as he thought it was, because John's quite a technical player.
Oh right, yeah.
In Shot by Both Sides, for instance, it's down down down. Even that's simple, but there was more movement in that than most of the stuff that was. So I said, try this. And he went, I've only just realised it's simpler than I thought.
Right.
It was.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I said, just play that dead simple part, and we'll put a really big reverb and a nice echo on it, and that's going to sound.
And
he went, wow. And then he started playing really more simple stuff with the Pacific Project and stuff. So it's and I was reading an article about that the other day about the great guitarists. You know, of course, you've got Jimi Hendrix, who was a great technical wizard. But the greatest guitar, I mean, Eric Clapton. I'm not a fan of these people. I'm not a fan of Hendrix. And I guess it's because there's too much guitar for me, because I'm a more electronics guy.
You're more of the guts of the song.
Yeah, exactly.
You like a melody.
Yeah, a basic simple melody. But you know, when you listen to the
I'm on both sides. It depends.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I do like a melody and a song that's a song.
But if you listen to the greatest players of all time, let me just turn that on. The Clapton. I'm not a fan of Clapton, but his guitar parts are so simple.
Yeah.
But he's still classed as one of the greatest guitarists of all time.
Right, yeah.
And it's feel more than anything.
Oh yeah.
It's that, you know, the way that they lay into the guitar, the way they play the strings, and
I think Jeff Beck fans would argue with you about who's the best.
He'd probably be number 1 and Eric Clapton number 2. But I love that stuff as well, you know. And what's the other guy? There's another guy. Who did you see? Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck.
And there's another guy as Snowy White.
Yeah.
There's another guy as well that's brilliant as well.
Now I go back to mine is pretty much all David Bowie's guitar players have been amazing.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
Alomar is one of my favorite of his.
Oh yeah. But even those guys, it was more in the rhythm, wasn't it? More than the playing.
Like band I just saw Cheap Trick, and that's that guitar player, right? Simple, keep it simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? If you can do if you can keep that rhythm in, and I think that's where it's so important to have that rhythm.
Yeah.
In fact, that was part of that article I was reading the other day. It's more rhythm and feel is more important than your playing capabilities.
So I think we're at a perfect time here for you to play one of your brand new songs.
Okay.
Right? You've written several.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Fix us. Thank you so much.
Yes. Love that. So that's brand new?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's just been released on AWOL Records, which is part of
great.
Cobalt. Yeah. So
and I love it. I love new music all the time. It's just creating new music is
absolutely
awesome. Right?
So I'll send you the 4-track. So what came from that track that we just did was another 4 tracks by another guy called Ryan Roth, who I met at the Gallagher's show.
So you have an EP?
Yes, a 4-track EP, and we're just going through the design process of what we're going to put on the front of it. And I'm not going to let many things out of the bag, but we want this to be so different. You know, it's going to be released on vinyl specifically.
Oh, great! Yeah.
And
people are loving vinyl right
yeah,
now.
absolutely. And we're going to make it pretty much like it used to be back.
Going old school.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Where if you bought something, you had something. You know, you bought something and you had something to keep.
Some artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that you could frame if you wanted to. You know, and the artwork on the inside is different to the artwork on the outside, and it's yeah, I think it's a really lovely thing to be involved in. It's great.
Okay, so let us know all where we can find your music, where we can find When in Rome, Farrington Man, and Clive Farrington. Yeah,
I mean, all the songs that we played just now are all available throughout all the usual suspects.
Any platform,
so all platforms, iTunes,
Spotify,
Pandora, and all them lot. So To Fix Us is available on that. Of course, The Promise and all those lot are available on that, but all the new music is going to be available through AWOL Records and on every... Because what AWOL Records do is they distribute to all of the... to all the supply chain, if you like.
Right.
So go to any of one of those, and if you want to know anything about Farrington and Man, it's Farrington-Man.com.
Okay.
www.farrington-man.com.
And you have some social media as well?
Facebook page is Farrington Man. I know, of course, I've got a private one, but the one that you can get me through is the Farrington and Man, if you want to listen to some stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I have a few pages as well as my personal one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and you can find me at ChadCurryAcoustic.com, BigMess.com, or like his record company, mine is LordCashPockets.com.
Lord Cash
And that's
Pockets.
because they keep all the money.
I'll tell you what, I wish we'd have had Lord Cash Pockets back in the day.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to see
thank you so much.
Chad's Underground Scene, Part 2 of Clive Farrington. And remember, it all starts in the underground.
Thank you.
We talk about everything, play music in between. Tune in and enjoy Chad's Underground Scene.